Thank you for listening to the jazzy side of a jazzy interpretation of the parade. But on this morning, I want to talk about a different type of celebration. Now, the title for this sermon is The Parade Paradox. And while, we always like spectacle, I'd like to talk about some spectacle that happened last week. Now, if you are not aware, last week was the most important week if you are a fan of professional wrestling. Yes, that was WrestleMania, and it was WrestleMania 35. It was awesome. It was 8 hours on Sunday, 8. And that includes the pre-show, and it ended at midnight, about 12:30. Then there was a show before that, the day before, the Hall of Fame. Then they had a show before that. It's become a festival almost. It's very interesting. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because it truly is a spectacle on the religious tip. And what I mean is, it is a level of party, excitement. They have, you'll have Snoop Dogg do the theme songs for people and all kinds of things like that. But this year's WrestleMania was really important because now in the Me Too movement, the corporations have picked up on that, and so WWE is now in the women's revolution, or evolution. And yes, now they've decided to present women as equals. So this year, the main event was going to be between Charlotte Flair, the daughter of Ric Flair, if you're familiar with Ric Flair. And if you're not familiar with Ric Flair, yes you are, because have you not seen the Cumberland Falls commercials? They're on TV right now, they're selling the hot dogs and the coffee. And there's this white dude who's in a pink jumpsuit, a pink robe, and he goes, woo, woo, and that's all he does. It's on television right now. That's Ric Flair. He's a professional wrestler. He's been a wrestler for 50 years. Okay. Now, like I said, they had planned to do this. But they had planned to do this almost a year or two ago. This is all staged, and we know that. Professional wrestling is fake. And so they had planned this match of Charlotte Flair, the daughter of Ric Flair, and Ronda Rousey. Now, Ronda Rousey is a former UFC, United Fighters Championship, women's champion. She was the first one. She's been in movies. She's all kind of stuff. And so, like I said, they've been planning this for years. And then somebody got hurt in a match. Yep. And all of a sudden, they had just changed their plots. And then another woman came in, and we're going to get to that later. Her name is Becky Lynch. But they have, like I said, it's all planned. Now, what made this whole thing special for me was not about the women's evolution. It was about the WWE Championship match. And that was going to be between Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan. Now, Kofi Kingston if he would win, he would become the first African-born WWE champion. He is also a little small. He is not the size of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, nor is he the size of Hulk Hogan. He is 3 to 5 inches too short and 100 pounds too light. He is not your heavyweight style of champion. But the brother is in the picture, so I'm happy. And it happened because a simple mistake happened. Somebody got hurt. They threw Kofi in and said, "All right, Kofi, yeah, go finish the match." And then all of a sudden it blew up. The crowd starts chanting, "Kofi, Kofi, Kofi." And then it becomes Kofi Mania for the past 3 months. Now that has changed all of what WWE had planned on for WrestleMania. They did not have the plan of keeping this African-American man to be the champion, nor did they want to have his teammates, who are called the New Day, be the stars of this show. This is supposed to be the women's evolution, and this man, Kofi Kingston, does not play the part properly. Now, you might ask that question, now who is Kofi Kingston? Now, Kofi Kingston is just a good brother who's been working hard for 11 years in the WWE. But what he realized about 8 years ago was that he did not fit the part. Too dark, too short, too light, too skinny, and too black. And so his friend Big E, who's another African-American wrestler, and then another guy named Xavier Woods, another African-American wrestler, they say, you know what, fine, we're gonna lose. Let's just do it on our own terms. And so they said, we're gonna start the new day. Yes, it is. And so they can be seen as a joke. They are a joke. And they've been a joke since the day they debuted, because they have run around and they talk about the power of positivity. That's all they talk about. And they run around and they have wonderful, colorful clothing on. They're wearing neon green and they even have They had unicorn. They're wearing unicorn horns one day. Yeah, I mean, not only that, when you hear them when they come out into the ring, first thing you hear is Big E's voice, and Big E comes and he says, "Oh, Pittsfield," or whatever local city you're in. Don't be sour. Clap your hands for the 6-time WWE Tag Team Champions and feel the power of the New Day. And then all of a sudden, gospel music starts playing. And I'm dead serious. Gospel music plays, and all of a sudden the New Day comes out, and Xavier Woods comes out. All these guys come out. One guy has a trombone that he calls Francesca. He's dancing. And they just doing their thing. And what was funny is that because they just kept on doing their thing and nobody paid attention, they became really, really, really popular. They sell the most merchandise. In fact, they started not realizing, people didn't realize that they didn't see them as a true threat. What's interesting is that, like I said, they are wearing bright colors, they're smiling, and they're shining. In fact, they even start throwing pancakes almost like Aunt Jemima. They're playing us. And they know that they're playing you. Here's the irony. And the paradox of it. Paradox of it is, all these men are all college graduates. All these men are very smart men. In fact, Kofi Kingston is a great father and person. And let's put it plain and simple. I would say that what they started doing is they started having what they call now is black boy joy. Now that is the male counterpart to black girl magic. It's black boy joy. But they are individuals who are walking paradoxes. Now a paradox is a person, a thing, a situation that exhibits kind of a apparently contradictory nature. Or it could be a statement or proposal that seems self-contradictory or absurd, but in reality, it expresses a possible truth. So these young men are walking paradoxes. They know exactly, this man, like I said, my favorite, Xavier Woods, is working on his PhD in educational psychology while he's wrestling. So he's very aware of throwing a pancake and what the pancake means. He is literally trolling not only the owner of the company, but he's also making money off the company, and he's being able to show himself the way he chooses to show himself. The paradox. Now, the irony is also that, like I said, they counted Kofi out. Kofi did not have the right fit. But there's a larger paradox. By just throwing him in that match, they showed how good Kofi really was. They remembered how good he was. And like I said, they shouted, Kofi Mania, and we got it. And Kofi is now the WWE champion. Yes, he is. And we also know the reality that, guess what? We wanted him, but Vince McMahon, the owner of the company, did not want Kofi. and does not want Kofi to be his star player. It's not about Kofi. It's about the paradox of greatness, because we know that for Kofi to actually be the best wrestler that we think of, he will have to lose. To be a good champion, you end up losing a whole lot. You think of Muhammad Ali, you think of other folks, you can think of Rocky Marciano, who was undefeated, but no one really thinks about the undefeated streaks anymore. They think of when you think of a good champion, you're thinking of the champion who doesn't have the longest undefeated streak, but sometimes you're thinking about the champion who is the maybe 5-time champion, which means he's lost 4 times. Like I said, I mentioned earlier before, Ric Flair is the 16-time WWE champion. There's John Cena, he's 15 times. That is the paradox of the sports entertainment, is that to be the best, you also have to lose a whole lot. And that sounds a whole lot like Christianity sometimes. Like I said, wrestling is scripted, and while it's scripted, all this is scripted. And, well, our Bible is scripted too. And then these paradoxes. While a woman did headline WrestleMania, and Kofi is the first African-American champion in almost 20 years, the structures that exist around these television shows, these simple soap operas. And it's no different than Young and the Restless. Let's just keep it real. It's no different than The Days of Our Lives. It's just the point, these are guys who are using their fists to fight instead of pulling each other's hair out. The reality is that sexism still exists. The reality is that Vince Kennedy McMahon is still spending money and his wife is still working for Trump. The reality is that, yes, Kofi may be the WWE champion, but we know that he ain't going to be champion for long. But while the victory is short-lived, and we shout the name of Kofi, 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 we hope that it's remembered. As we move through these paradoxes, the paradox of the parade that we're talking about this morning in Luke is as the disciples shout, "Blessed is the King blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord," and Jesus enters from the east. Another parade is entering from the west. There is a paradox of power and of true power. And that is the paradox also of who Christ is. The paradox is also in the song that I played before the sermon, "Take Me to the Alley." Well, they built their houses in preparation for the king, and they line the sidewalks with every sort of shiny thing. They will be surprised when they hear him say, "Take me to the alley. Take me to the afflicted ones. Take me to the lonely ones who somehow lost their way." In that paradox, Christ has not become the king that they asked for. He will not liberate them by force. He will not liberate them. He will not shut down the Roman government. It will be a slow process that will cause an empire to slowly crumble over 500 years. He will not be the king they asked for, but he will be the king they need. And that is the paradox for us. How do we become the church that is about the parade, but also about the alley? How do we become the church that is about the afflicted ones, about the lonely ones who have somewhat lost their way? How are we moving beyond scripted melodrama? The show of Palm Sunday, the show of Easter, the show that will have all this week of penance, the show of piety, but not the actual purpose of Christ. The paradox is that we have to eventually show how the new clothes that we wear are also just as good as the clothes that we give away. The paradox is that the money that we spend on ourselves needs to be as equal as the money that we spend on others. that the food that we are willing to eat is as good as or equal to the food that we give away. That is the paradox of the parade. That is the paradox of the power of God. Out of weakness we become strong, and out of death comes resurrection and life. How will we be church today, people? How? Let us live into these paradoxes and find where God has called us to be on this Palm Sunday. Amen?
Amen.
And amen.